Hi, book lovers. I'm Peg, the book prize addict, and it is book prize time of the year. There are so many of them going on now, and there's so many good booktubers talking about them. Anyway, so I'm back today to talk about the Daggers Prize, which is one of the largest as far as crime fiction goes. Um, it's headed up in London, but it accepts crime of any kind from any country as long as it's written in English in the last year. Yeah. And anyway, the new list, the long list just came out, and I'm going to give you a link to that, but it's overwhelming. There's 13 categories of crime, not all novels, some nonfictions, and there's 10 in each categories. So if you want to look around on the site some of them are not published in the US yet, since I guess it's maybe a little bit British centered, but it has plenty of Americans writing, and they'll be out by the time the short list is announced. Anyway, so if you're into that, I still want to maintain the thesis that crime fiction, not in general, but much writing in crime fiction is bordering on the literary fiction now. Now, not completely, and there's still the old shoot 'em up, make 'em die kind, but these ones that win these prizes, I'll tell you why I think they're more literary, actually. So I'm going to tell you about the prizes for last year, which I had been announced a month or so ago in 5 different categories. Well, my 5 favorite categories. So here we go. We have the first category is the Golden Dagger, and I'm starting at the top. It is the best crime novel of all the ones, and they have lots of good judges. They have professionals judging it, which is kind of an interesting take. It is called Tell Me What I Am. Now, it is a missing persons novel. I know I talked last week when I was doing the Edgar Prize, which is centered in the U.S., about there being so many missing persons um, books out now that end up in the mystery category, but actually they have to have a lot of good writing and stories of them to hold out. I mean, the missing person can't talk. And so this one does really good. It's a woman with a really young child that actually disappears. You learn some about her life ahead of time, and you might have suspicions where she went, but it's really the story of the young girl growing up without a mother and the family dynamics. Really interesting. I like the way the timeline is done. It goes back and forth, but it tells you every chapter what years that's going to be. I had to kind of keep track because it went back and forth. But that's kind of how things happen. You learn things that somebody knew a long time ago, and anyway, and it definitely has an ending. Okay, the next one I'm going to talk about is the Ian Fleming Steel Dagger. And if you're familiar with Ian Fleming, you know it means kind of noirish, lots of action. I would say probably these would be the least literary, but there's still some very good writing in this. Actually, the atmosphere of this is what's so good. It takes place in LA, California, which has all the noir authors of the past have their history there. And it's even blurbed by several well-known ones. Michael Connelly, he's still writing, of course, Dennis Lane. Yeah, you can kind of go by who blurbs things on how good they are. Okay, everybody knows is about a woman called May who is a publicist, what's called a black bag publicist. Now, that's the opposite. A usual publicist tries to get its clients known and well known and famous. The black bag publicist takes somebody who's got some bad news and tries to keep it out of the news. And in LA, that's kind of hard to do with all the whispers. Anyway, so she's a real character, and it starts out with the scene that she's going to have to try to cover up, And it is well done, again, with atmosphere of the California rich people set and the cheap and gaudy alongside it, and had a lot of great atmosphere, I thought. Okay, the next one is the debut of the list, they call it, first novel, called Blink of an Eye by Jo Callaghan. This is her debut, but it has actually won the best novel in several other mystery prizes, and it already has a sequel. So it is really good and really different, and I have to tell you, it is different. It's two detectives, one human and one AI, and it is written so well. I mean, it's not pure science fiction or anything, but the AI detective responds just like a character. I mean, in fact, he's quite a character. And the author has a lot of fun with sarcastic comments to our detective and her thoughts about him. And they're forced to work together because she's been in a little trouble. So she has to be the experimenter that works with the AI guy. So I'm already anxious to read the next one on this. And they have actual translation, mystery translations. And I think the translations are more likely to be literary, though they're translations of crime novels or mystery. They're more likely. I mean, I guess we don't pick things to translate if they're not pretty well written. Anyway, this one, my husband, it's very French. It's translated from the French, and I can't really describe it at all. It's mostly in the mind of this woman, a married woman, 40-ish, and her thoughts about her husband. And in some ways, she's the neediest, clingiest, unhinged person you've ever seen. Like, she expects him to be perfect. Good luck, lady. Excuse me, she calls him at work today to remind him that he didn't say I love you before he left. And it goes on from there. All kinds of things happen. Good writing, as I said, and you wonder what is going on. And it does have, at the end, we get to hear a little bit about what the husband's thinking all this time. So that is really a different kind of plot, and I thought really well done. And last of all, I have the historical mystery or crime novel called Viper's Dream. The historical has to be 50 years or more about that time period. This takes place in mid-century New York in the jazz scene. And it has a young man who's pretty good on the horn, that he runs away and goes to New York. And he does get into some bands, lesser known bands, and there's a lot of jazz names dropped, which anybody familiar with jazz would know, and allusions to different jazz men's and things. And unfortunately, he's pretty good. He's a pretty good musician, but not good enough to really go with the big time Louis Armstrong and Charlie Parker were there then. So he gets into the selling of marijuana business, and he's really great at that. He's got a good personality. He has quite a following for that. In fact, the Viper, he's called Viper, is from the sound that people make when they're smoking on a reefer. I guess they breathe with an audible like a snake. Okay, so that again was really good and really different. I hope you'll take a look at some of the new ones. There's 10 in each of the 13 categories. There's nonfiction about crime, and there's what do you call it? Where a real crime, you take a real crime and look real crime. No, true crime. There's a lot of interesting ones coming up, and I plan to follow it. I have all year, so they'll narrow down the 10 on each of the 13 lists to, I think, 5 or 6, and then finally pick a winner. So I'll be watching for that. Anyway, so next week I'm planning to talk about the Carol Shields Prize. It's my version of the Women's Prize. I think it has really better books this year than the Women's Prize has on it, and it'll be announced the winner May 1st, so I'm going to get them read and talked about next week. And we have a lot of good booktubers now talking about book prizes, and I'm hoping to see some of you all making videos about the Carol Shields Prize too. Happy Easter too, by those who might celebrate. I had more eggs, but some of them broke during the year. Okay, see you next week. Bye.